The C&L intake that we have here today is currently one of the most affordable options for the 2018 and newer GT owners looking to get an open element, no tune required aftermarket system under the hood. Now the C&L will deliver a powder coated black aluminum intake tube along with your reusable oiled filter and heat shield, all for the low $200 price point. You're going to be looking at a simple bolt-on install here, guys, so figure a soft 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, maybe an hour to complete from start to finish, as we'll show you later in the video. All right, guys, so if you're checking out the C&L here today, then chances are you're in the market for an intake, but would prefer to keep things a little bit more budget friendly. Now, if that sounds like the case, then the C&L is certainly going to be a great choice because, again, at the time of this video, you're actually looking at the most affordable option, again, for the 2018 and newer GT. Now, as far as what's included, well, you are getting a powder-coated wrinkle black aluminum intake tube here, which I like because it's a nice clean appearance, it's a low profile look once installed, and ultimately that aluminum material is going to be great at preventing heat soak. Now the C&L does also include a reusable high flow oiled filter that, yes, is washable, it is reusable, which will ultimately save you some dough in the long run as opposed to just replacing those cheap paper element factory filters every 10,000 miles or so. But outside of the intake tube and that high flow oiled filter, the C&L kit does also include, as you can see, a rather large heat shield here that will help isolate that filter from the hot engine bay air, along with the included weather stripping that will seal that airbox to the underside of the factory or aftermarket hood. Now ultimately, guys, going with a sealed enclosure will return slightly lower intake air temperatures, so if that is ultimately a concern for you guys, I would certainly consider one of the many aftermarket options with a sealed airbox here on the site, but just keep in mind that those typically are a little bit more costly. But let's talk benefits, because obviously there are a few expectations when installing something like this, and the biggie, no doubt, with that open element design is going to be a lot more sound under the hood, along with a more modified look, of course, compared to that factory airbox. But of course, we got some power expectations as well with something like this. And listen, guys, I try to be pretty honest when discussing this topic because a lot of manufacturers will throw big time horsepower and torque claims out there with some of their systems. And what I'm going to tell you is it's been my experience over the years that something like this is going to result in maybe high single digit, low double digit gains, best case scenario, without the use of any custom or can tuning. Now ultimately, yes, can tuning or custom tuning will maximize the gains through an intake like this, but at the end of the day, I just want you guys to be realistic with your power expectations when switching to an aftermarket option such as a C&L. Now before we get into the install, I do want to mention that the C&L does include all of the necessary clamps, couplers, hardware, all that good stuff to make for a very easy and painless install. Now let's talk about that installation again, and I'm happy to say that, listen guys, if you have a little bit of mechanical know-how and even a generic set of hand tools at home, well then you should be able to get this intake in place and rather easily. So give you a better idea of just what you're in for at home, in the garage or the driveway, feel free to check out our detailed walkthrough and tool breakdown now.
The tools you'll need for this project are a 3/8 power ratchet or a standard ratchet, a short extension, a 10mm socket, a 1/4" drive ratchet, a short extension, a 7mm socket, an 8mm socket, a T20 Torx bit, a 6mm Allen wrench, a 2.5mm Allen wrench, a pair of pliers, and a trim removal tool. Hi everyone. Today we're installing a cold air intake on our Mustang, but before that, let's watch a short video on how to uninstall the stock air filter first.
Okay, so the first step in our install once the hood is popped is to grab a trim panel removal tool and remove 2 covers on each side of the engine cover to expose some nuts that we have to remove. Okay, so you will see 2 little cutouts on either side of this cover. Just take the end of your tool and pry up in one of the cutouts, and this should come out. Repeat that process on the other side. So there are 2 10mm nuts, 1 in each side of the cover. You're going to want a 10mm socket if you can find one, and a nice long extension to make sure you can get on the nut. Go ahead and loosen it up and remove it. Repeat that on the other side. Okay, now that these nuts are removed, you can grab your cover around the edges and pull it off. There should be several clips that you just need to release in order to remove the cover. Okay, now we can disconnect the MAF harness. Pull back on the red tab. It might be hard to see, but it's on the bottom here. Press down. And release. Now you can release this vacuum line on your intake tube. Press down and release it. Next up, we're going to remove this crankcase vent line. There's a blue tab. Press back on the blue tab. And it should come free. Just press backwards on this blue tab here to release those. Okay, now you can grab a set of pliers and release the sound tube. Go ahead and squeeze the clamp. And you should be able to wiggle the tube off. Now, if you can't get it off by hand, you can gently pry back on the tube with a flathead. Just be careful not to damage the rubber. Next up, grab your flathead screwdriver and loosen up the clamp holding on your tube to your throttle body. Go ahead and wiggle it to remove it. All right, grab your 10mm socket again and go ahead and remove the bolt holding on the airbox. All right, now we do have to remove this one pop clip that holds the MAF sensor connector line onto the airbox. So go ahead and grab a pop clip removal tool. Go ahead and pull that off. This back part of the sound tube is also connected to the airbox. Just grab and pull it up and out of the way. Now that everything is disconnected from the airbox, we can grab it and lift it out and off of the car.
Now, before we get to the actual install of our new cold air intake, we're going to need to transfer our mass airflow sensor from the old system to the new system. To do this, we're going to use a T20 Torx bit to remove the mass airflow sensor from the old system, and we're going to use a 2.5mm Allen head screw to install it in the new system. Now we can install the sensor into our new tube, making sure, of course, that your holes line up. If they don't line up, that means you've installed it backwards. So just flip it around and everything will be fine. And then, like I said, using a 2.5mm Allen wrench, we can go ahead and install this on the new tube. Now you want to make sure to tighten this down, but don't over tighten it. Now our next step is going to be to install the weather stripping that's supplied in the kit along this top edge here and around the bottom. To do that, we're simply going to push it over the edge and make sure that it seats down all the way. Now it's not real difficult, but it is a little time consuming, making sure that it seats properly and goes all the way around the corners. And there you go. Now, one last thing to do before we actually start the install is we've got to go ahead and finish removing our sound tube. To do that, we're going to have to pull out this push pin right here, pull it off of the firewall, and then we can remove the sound tube from the firewall itself. Now, once we get that pulled off, we're going to replace it with this plug supplied in the kit. So let's go ahead and get that done. Now it is a little bit difficult to get the camera back in here, but you know where the hole is at since you just pulled the tube out. So we're just going to go ahead and put this plug in here. Now it is a little tight to get down in there, but with a little bit of work, you can get it done. Now we can go ahead and install our heat shield. And we're going to install this using this bottom hole right here and the supplied 6mm Allen head bolt for the bottom. And then we're going to use the original 10mm bolt for the original air filter through this bracket right here in the original location. Now it is a little difficult to get the right camera angle in here, but the hole itself is right down here at the bottom. So we're going to put our bolt in there. And then see if we can locate the hole to thread it into. There we go. And like I said, we'll use our 6mm Allen bolt wrench and tighten that down. And now we go ahead and tighten down our top bolt using our 10mm wrench. Now we can go ahead and install our rubber vibration isolator into this top hole of the heat shield here, and we'll secure it using the small washer and the 10mm nut on the outside. All right, now we can go ahead and install our intake tube. In order to do that, we're going to use one of the larger clamps and just slide it over the top of the tube, making sure that the bolt head on top is accessible once we get it installed. Then we can slide our coupler onto the tube. We're not going to put the clamp on just yet because we need to get final fitment. Then we can take our smaller clamp, slide it over the other end, again making sure that the bolt head is facing top so you've got easier access to it. Now before we actually install this, your mass airflow sensor connector, I'm going to recommend that you lay that over top of the weather stripping on the heat shield just to make it easier to connect to the mass airflow sensor once it's installed. Now you also want to make sure that this bracket on the bottom of your intake tube sits over top of the stud on the isolator that we just previously installed on the heat shield. Now once you've got it into position, you can go ahead and tighten down your clamps using your 8mm socket. Now we go ahead and install our larger washer and our nut on the isolator and secure that with our 10mm socket. Now we can go ahead and reconnect our vacuum line to this side of the tube. And now we'll hook up our PCV line to the other side, like so. Now we can go ahead and hook up our mass airflow sensor. And don't forget to push in the red tab at the top. Now we can go ahead and slide our clamp over our air filter, making sure that the bolt head is in a position that we'll be able to tighten it down once we get it installed. We'll go ahead and slide our air filter over the end of our tube. And tighten the clamp down with our 8mm socket. And finally, we'll just go ahead and reinstall our engine cover and secure it with the 10mm bolts that came with it. And that wraps up our review and install of the C&L cold air intake for the 18 to current Mustang GT. Thanks for watching, and remember, for all things Mustang, keep it right here at AmericanMuscle.com.